This is Kardec Radio for Teens.
And now it's time for real life-changing dilemmas from a spiritist perspective. The Diary of Alex with your host, Mark Smith.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Diary of Alex. And today, you may remember our last week we were talking about Alex's incarnation in the 19th century. Alex was able to get a glimpse of his life in the 19th century after he discarnated in the 1940s, and he was able to review the diaries that were left of his life in the spirit realm. Here we have him once again discussing his growing relationship with the slave Malika, who lived on his family's property. Our love continued to grow, and when I became older, I developed a romantic interest in her. Every time I was with her, it was as if I were dreaming. Then the dream ended in a nightmare. My parents decided I need to get married to someone in my own social class. I couldn't bear the idea of not having Malika by my side. So we spent many days and nights together before I moved away from home. Right when I was about to leave to get married, Malika revealed to me that she was expecting our child. With livid emotions, I felt a panic overcome me. Without knowing what to do, I decided to follow the conventions set for me by my parents and society in general. I decided that I would move away from home and do what my parents suggested, to marry the person they set up for me. The day I left, I could see the melancholy in her beautiful big brown eyes. This would be the last time I saw her. Well, this is the end of this chapter of Alex's diary from that time. Next week will be the final chapter. This week's story, I think, brings up several issues. One thing is that oftentimes the world and all its conventions, even today, will sometimes ask us to prioritize our biological family needs over our spiritual family needs. And that's what I think one of the things we learned from this particular entry. Our Master and Guide Jesus has told us actually to do both. He says, "Who are my brothers and who are my sisters? My brothers are all of those who do the will of my Father." The family circle is our first blessed school on earth, but the universal spiritual family are those people whom we're lovingly connected to as spirits, those spirits who already know our heart. We also have those spirits who may be in our own biological family, whom we are learning to love. And that's also very important. So we have those spirits who we're lovingly connected to, just like Alex is with Malika. And we have those whom we're learning to love. That could very likely be Alex and this new family that he's joining as he's leaving his father's care. And so we can see here that this story actually brings together these two tensions very strongly. It's important to remember one other thing, though, that we learn in the Gospel according to Spiritism, and that is, in this chapter on spiritual kinship versus material kinship, we learn that the conventions of the world are but, quote, a temporary condition to which we're exposed. The material and biological ties will wither, even within the same incarnation, without the spiritual ties amongst them. So it seems like Jesus is saying, and the good spirits are saying, that it is our role to find our mission, this incarnation, to connect with our spiritual family. At the same time, it's also our role to learn to love those who are not really in that spiritual family yet, some of whom may even be in our own biological families. It's also important to remember that, though, that we have free will to follow our consciousness in our hearts. And here we see, in this story of Alex that we just read, that Alex had the free will to say, well, I'm going to move away from my spiritual family. Here's the question to meditate on today. How often do we make choices in life just to please others? How often do we give away our own free will to those that surround us? Let's start examining the motivations behind our actions and practice connecting our own free will to that of God before making life-changing decisions. It seems that that's the big error that Alex made. He did not connect to the higher spirits, the higher spirit realm, before making this life-changing decision. He followed the conventions of the society, but remember, the conventions wither, as we just learned. They rot away. Above all else, let's remember that God is love and that we can all feel God's love through the presence of our guardian angel and through remembering that we are all children of God. So let's practice surrendering to God rather than surrendering to passing social conventions. Let's do right now a short prayer in which we remind ourselves of that. Thank you, dear spirits, for reminding us today that we're all spirits and that we have a spiritual family to whom we might have great responsibility. Let us, right now, practice surrendering to God and making decisions and that connect our own free will to that of God. Let's remember that God is love and that God brings us together, all of us together, and connects us to a spiritual family that may be very important for us to fulfill a mission in this incarnation. Are the choices we make connected to God, or are they connected to pleasing others? Let's remind ourselves once again that our own free will can be better connected to God's will as well. Let us work to make sure in our lives that we're working for greater peace, love, justice, and togetherness. And so be it. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you again next week for the last chapter of this incarnation of Alex.
This has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.